Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Not Content Podcast. My name is Jerome Cuson. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and colleague, Brian. You can leave a 4 or 5 star review on Apple and Spotify to get those algorithms going and to let people know what we are doing here on this podcasting network. Please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the bell icon for notifications, and you're especially going to want to do that because we are doing YouTube exclusive episodes. This week, we will be discussing rare exports on that exclusive. Here on this episode, we are going to be discussing 2022's Violent Night, a movie that was a pretty solid hit in 2022. This is a movie that made about $80 million at the box office on a $20 million budget. And given, obviously the box office has never really fully recovered from the what would I say, the quarantine portion of the pandemic. But I think that this is a movie that definitely showed that there was hope for some of these types of movies that don't have these huge budgets. In many ways, Violent Night is a love letter to so many other Christmas movies, which I think makes it difficult to fully embrace. Like there are clear, like Beverly D'Angelo is in this movie, clearly calling back to Christmas Vacation. This movie is very much Die Hard in a mansion with Santa Claus. The movie Die Hard is even directly referenced. You also have the movie Home Alone, not only referenced, but there are some booby traps in the house that the young girl sets up. So there is, and we also even have a character. The antagonist is named Scrooge as well. But despite all of that, despite the fact that this movie at times feels like it can be, kind of aping other holiday movies, I think this one can still stand on its own. You have a more violent interpretation of Santa. Like in some ways, I think I should have almost just completely rethought this month and done it as like a Santa month and just look at the different ways that Santa's been explored. We're going to get into this more with rare exports, but with this movie, Santa is very cynical. He's almost Billy Bob level drunk at times, but here he finds some redemption, also in the form of a child. But this time he has to get a little violent, and he is the main protagonist in this movie, unlike in Bad Santa when he is sort of the protagonist. But here we have a very rich family, a lot of great supporting performances in this movie, I would say, and I think they really really stand out. And I am very much looking forward to discussing and getting into all of this as we go along here. Brian, how did you feel about Violent Night?
Saw it in theaters, loved it when I first saw it. Second time around, I'm a little skeptical on the lighting. There's some lighting issues for sure, I think.
I
But
think
other
it's
than that,
like any other modern movie. This is a huge problem.
especially with the snow, we'll talk about that. But it just felt really dark in some scenes. But overall, I really enjoyed this character, this Nicholas, this many names, the man with many names gimmick. I love that idea that he's like this Viking or some kind of warrior from some kind of past culture. We don't know exactly if he was a Viking or not. It's implied, but somehow he just turned into Santa Claus without some back. So yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to the sequel. I want that backstory. I want that juicy backstory that we were teased in
You
this
are
movie.
you are all about this. I personally don't care about that all the
Oh
time.
man, it was such a tease for a higher budget movie that we might not get, but we may
I
get because
believe
the
there
sequel's coming
is going
out.
to be there is a sequel coming out next year, I
But
believe.
we don't know if
Let me
it's a
double check
prequel.
that.
It could be a mashup like Wonder Woman 1984, which would be a bad thing. Or this is kind of an odd
Wow,
reference, but
Kristen Bell, Joey Pants. Oh
yeah, I
man,
know. Yeah, and Jared Harris, we just talked about him, I think, a couple weeks ago.
inexplicably, Brian did not realize this is Richard Harris's kid.
I know, but and then in my head, like I call him Jared Hess for the longest time, which obviously doesn't help. So it just didn't click. And then once I realized, I was like, oh my God, he's like a legendary second gen actor. And then, I watched more Chernobyl clips. But back to the movie, I love the whole concept of what this was put together with. Except I think the characters needed some changes. I think we had too many asshole family members because I feel like they were setting them up to get murdered like a slasher, but that didn't
Right.
happen. and they were still alive and they were still bastards. So I had mixed feelings about that, but I love the setup and the whole like it's Die Hard, but it's kind of like anti Die Hard, and you mix it in with the Home Alone aspect. And there was some good mashup cutting, like she's like asking for Santa on the radio, and then and a match cut, Santa picks up the phone, which is totally unrelated. So there was some smart editing in this movie as well. And I know John Leguizamo was chewing scenery as the villain in this movie. Listen, I get that he's trying to like probably, this like a backdoor way of getting like a villain role in like a DC movie or something like that. I don't see him in Marvel, but I could see him as like him trying to be a Batman villain, and this was kind of like his demo reel, so to speak. But he was definitely trying to do the Hans Gruber, right? But I think that line that killed me the most, Jerome, Christmas Dies Tonight. Just, I was dying laughing in the theater. I was dying laughing when I watched it earlier.
I mean, John
My
Leguizamo
goodness.
was clearly going for it, and I'm very mixed on his performance. Like, especially on the rewatch, I'm like, he's almost leaning into the Hans Gruber too much. It feels like John Leguizamo is
Yeah,
just
I think at
John
first it does,
Leguizamo.
but once the violent confrontation at the end, I think that's where he kind of finds the role, so to speak, because
I
I
mean,
guess he's
I don't think
such
the
a
writing
violent
does him
person.
any favors. I don't know, like in terms of
Well, the
like
one-liners don't for sure, because that's what he was trying to do, the whole stick with the family. But
it's really it is a very mixed bag, I'd say, in terms of
the
John Leguizamo.
comedy, yeah, and the comedy as a
Yeah,
whole, I think.
I think the comedy. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think the comedic writing is as strong as it could be. I think the biggest strength is Edie Patterson as Alva. She was in Righteous Gemstones. You know who that is, right?
Okay, we can talk about this because I'm on the totally opposite spectrum. It's like it feels like nails on a chalkboard when I see her act, which is like taking me
I think
like
she.
farther
I
away
think
from
she
Righteous
is.
Gemstones.
I
But I
I think
guess
the
that's the
part of the
character. I
interview.
get that's the character, but my goodness, and then if that's the same character on Righteous Gemstones, I'm like, oh my god,
I think the
you
problem
know?
is there are too many other family members that are also trying to go to that place, and I think Edie Patterson is the one that should have been allowed to cook more than the others because I think she is
Or maybe
delivering on
just
what you
her,
want from
maybe
this
just her,
role.
and not the son, and not the boyfriend, because that was
I
a
mean,
little
I
too
don't,
much
I don't
asshole.
necessarily want to get into like who do you cut and who do you not because I don't know how that all works out. But it feels like there's too many. It feels like there's too many family
But
members.
Beverly
I would agree with
D'Angelo,
you.
my goodness, she owned that role, and I guess a lot of people will call her a bitch in this role. She's just a powerful woman, y'all, and you all can't handle it. You know what I mean? Like that's the vibe I was getting, and it's like I
Yeah,
think she's just a powerful woman, and she just kind of gives off that vibe that she's a bitch. But I just feel like she's just a powerful woman that has like so much money that she could just steal $300 million. You know what I mean? And that's the part of the plot line. But my goodness, just randomly stealing $300 million. Good lord, how much money do you think was actually stolen in the U.S. in the last 10 years, Joe?
I don't even know. I mean, this does take place in London, even though it's primarily an American family. How did you feel about Leah Brady as Trudy? I think kid roles are always really difficult because I feel like you end up with a lot of Disney kids who are like trying too hard, but it really feels like she is able to balance in. My thing with kid actors is I always try to put the focus on like if the kid performance is bad, I really do blame the director more than the kid because the kid has a lot less agency. I think that she does a really good job here, and I think she probably was well directed. But I also think she feels like a natural, and I don't think that it's perfect. But overall, I was very pleased with the performance that she was being asked because she's kind of meant to be like the one good person in the family in some ways. Like I guess her mom, to an extent, is meant to be a little bit, but it really does feel like she's the only one that like deserves to be saved. And she not only has to be angelic, but she also has to have a little bit of Kevin McAllister in her when she's setting up the traps, and that is not easy to do. So I think she straddles that line between like being a very good kid actor and maybe not being as good. I think she did a great job.
See, what it feels like is that she literally just watched Home Alone before she shot the movie. Like it feels like it's authentic in that sense. And it wouldn't surprise me if she only had signed Home Alone right before she shot the movie, which is her character, what she's supposed to be feeling. Like it's like imagine the first time you watch Home Alone, it's like you're getting all those ideas about traps as a kid, right? It really has that effect on you as a kid, especially at that age. So you can easily see how she can just kind of translate that, like, oh my god, like my family's like being caught by terrorists. What should I do? I'm gonna make traps. And I thought that was a good like mental connection because she just watched the movie. So it's a good homage, and I think the performance kind of reflects her sincerity about like being in that role, but like not necessarily being a great actor, but she kind of carries that role well and makes
She
it
is
seem
the
just
only one that can
realistic.
play. Like she doesn't. They're not relying on her for the humor necessarily. They're
No, and
also not.
she doesn't have any catchphrases or like catchy lines. She lets like the like let's say like the traps speak for themselves in this case, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
the
She's not
punchline
making
is
like when
she's
that
not
guy's
making the
mouth
punchline. The
goes
traps
through
are
when the mouth goes through the nail, she doesn't say something really snarky. It's just
right,
that's
and
what
it was
happened.
just like that's the punchline. So it mixed well with the directing and the fact that like I also think she plays like a good what I like to call the trope of a kid therapist, right? Whenever you have
Right.
a kid and an adult talking and you're trying to like resolve the kid's problems, you got to resolve the
Especially in
adult's
Christmas
problems.
movies. In
Right.
Christmas movies, we could probably cite this. I mean, it is a trope in Christmas movies, and I think it works out well. I mean, look, David Harbour is in Stranger Things, so he obviously knows how to act well against kids, especially on walkie talkies.
Yeah, such a good touch too, because and the reason it's a walkie-talkie, folks, it's not like this movie takes place in the '80s. It's just that the dude was like looking through his old stuff, right? The dad, and he just was like, "Oh my god, my kid needs a
Yeah,
present."
I mean, it's not the
They just
best
gave
thing.
her
It's
this
not
like
the best thing in
walkie-talkie
the
from like
world,
the
but
'90s. Luckily, it had reception from like God knows how much range, because usually those things are very sketchy
it
in
stretches
terms of
credulity a
distance.
little bit. But
Yeah,
I
but
appreciate I appreciate the fact that they put in like
yeah,
5 minutes of effort to at least explain why there would be a
yeah.
walkie-talkie.
And not only that, they did the whole like frequency thing. If you're a kid, folks, and I'm talking way back, and you had one of those old radios, sometimes like frequencies between decimal stations, you can hear like certain frequencies of like radio or baby monitors, especially. That was like a big thing that people noticed in the '90s. It's very similar to that, and that's how they get on the same literal wavelength. But it actually makes sense because that was a real thing back in the day. So, good touch.
All right, how did you feel about Beverly D'Angelo? I mean, obviously you cast her because she was in Christmas Vacation, and I think a lot of people commented on her appearance in this movie, which I don't necessarily want to do. I think if you are looking for somebody who is just pure acid as a character, I think she delivers on exactly what you would want to.
Um, like pitch perfect casting. I felt like as soon as I saw her, when I saw this in the movie theater, was it 3 years ago now? Uh, yeah, I was just popping hard because I was like, what a callback to like our nostalgia. And she delivered the role well, and it's totally opposite of what she does in and Christmas Vacation. She's very like like I mentioned, like she's a political figure, so she's standing up for herself. And she just doesn't give a shit, and she's like talking down to male senators on the phone, which I love that little bit. And I love it. So I just like the way that she's portrayed, and she takes a punch, which I was shocked at, but then she just kind of like stood up and just like took it
Yeah,
as like,
she does take a punch, doesn't she? Yeah.
yeah, and it's like from John Leguizamo, who's probably like got a good punch on him for a guy that size, and she didn't knock out; she just stood right back up. So I was really impressed. And I did like how like the women finally got they got to come up on one of the terrorists by stabbing him in the face. That was a good little moment. And I
Yeah,
got to
this
say that
movie,
one,
it's weird. Like, this is a movie that is not violent, and then it gets real gnarly in the second half. That's
I
what I
think they
find
did
so
that on purpose. I
interesting.
bet there was a screening where there was like they wanted more gore, and if you're going to do an R rating, you might as well throw a couple $1 million more for like explosions and
But
what
they
happened to
they
John
took their
Leguizamo.
time, which I appreciated. I
Yeah,
appreciate the fact that this didn't start with like them in the mansion. Like you had the scene, the Santa in the bar. You went to the trouble of having the reindeer abandon him. So I think this movie was built pretty well, and they definitely put in some thought. And again, I don't think this movie is perfect, but I mean the centerpiece of the movie, and certainly he's had his personal issues, which were I don't really want to address because then that's what this podcast is going to become about. But people should certainly read about and Google, some of the very heavy things that are being said about David Harbour. But in terms of this movie, I mean, who else are you going to cast to play a violent Santa? Like, I don't necessarily know that he is Bruce Willis Jr., but especially with that bald head, man, like in Stranger Things season 3, man, I definitely see it.
It's a little past that age prime, I guess, right? Because he's Bruce Willis was in his prime at a much younger age, and David Harbour's prime is like much later in his career. So, in terms of the physicality, he might not match up. But if this was like a late 2000s Bruce Willis, yeah, I can see it. You know what I mean? But obviously, it's 2021, 2022 when they made this, so obviously Bruce Willis was in no shape to do it. But I mean, if you got Bruce Willis for this, it'd probably be a notch better. But because of his condition at the time, he couldn't. There's no way he could have handled a script like this. So it's unfortunate. But with David Harbour, it's a good fit. It's a good matchup. He's got the physicality for it, and I think it adds to it that we saw him in the Russian prison a little bit, getting a little more physical. So I think the casting from Stranger Things does help based on what we saw. And like I said, he's got the physicality and he's really tall, and it really helps for this kind of role because we're used to Santa being what 5'5", right, 5'6", not a tall dude, but a tall
Yeah.
Santa's intimidating. So that really adds to the element of the action.
Oh, it works out extremely well. I don't know, man. Like, I think that when I heard about this movie and they told me David Harbour was Santa, I was like, that's perfect casting. That is absolutely the person who is both sympathetic. He's an asshole. He could be a drunk. I mean, like, for years he was a character actor. Like, that's the thing, is like part of what makes David Harbour so great is the fact that he wasn't a leading man for such a long time. And now that he is, like, he's able to really kind of lean into the things that he still does well and still kind of fit into a movie like this where, like, he is the lead, he is the protagonist, but the other performances are still able to shine as well because he's not dominating the entire movie. And I think that's what works about this, is that yes, Santa is the main character. And I would say that the biggest difference between this movie and Die Hard is, like, Die Hard does have a lot of scenes that don't involve John McClane, but we don't really get to know any of the characters. Like, the most prominent figure is like Alan Rickman. Reginald Val Johnson is certainly like a part of this, but like John McClane is in the majority of the movie. This movie, it feels like we get a lot more scenes that don't involve David Harbour as opposed to Die Hard, which it feels like most of that movie is centered around Bruce Willis, as it should be. Like, I think it makes sense. Like, I think it makes sense that Bruce Willis is much more of a centerpiece in that, whereas this movie, like, you have to have Santa, but you have to have a reason for Santa to want to do right by people, and in this case, it's to save this little girl primarily, but to also save the family.
For sure. I would probably still cut out maybe 5-10 minutes of it. It still feels a little too long. I think the idea of
I think
spoiler
the
alert.
ending, it's the ending, right?
Well, no, for me, it's the whole idea of the money not being there. That's a big. It was like a stalling, right? Why not just put the money in there and just chop 10 minutes out and not have it be in the middle of the snow and just put the money, and then take it out and put it in the snow. I thought that was just like a stalling point in the middle of the movie. It's like, oh, where's the money? And then it was this big mystery for like 10 minutes that didn't really need a big mystery in the middle, right? And that's, we could have had a little bit more David Harbour, but instead they chose to do this mystery thing. And then, like, if you're going to shoot somebody, what if you shoot the person that actually knows where the money is? It's like, fuck. And that was kind of a big waste of time until the guy revealed that he stole the money. But again, it was just kind of like a weird thing. I would just kind of axe that. But because it's an hour and 45, hour and 50 minutes, I would have had it a little bit tighter. But other than that, that's one of my minor complaints. The other minor complaint I have is, of course, the lighting. So for example, like, there's this
It's a
like
huge problem in
nice,
a lot of movies, especially when it's at night.
yeah, especially when it's like, remember the basement scene with the arcade stuff, and he's fighting the dude and he ends up electrocuting him. There were so
Absolutely.
many
Yes.
dim lights in that room. It felt like there was like
It is a
no
huge
central
problem.
lighting in the middle, where like a room usually has like in the middle of the ceiling, some kind of bright, the center of the piece of the room. There was not that. It was just like side lighting. It was very weird. And then when they're shooting outside, there's no street lights because it's like a private, kind of residence, so there's no like street lighting to help with the background or anything like that. It was very dark,
Right.
and when the violence is going on, luckily they light a fire, which I think really helped at the end, so you can actually see the violence going on. But man, when it didn't have any of that stuff, it was very hard to see. Luckily, we saw David Harbour like actually walk through the trees. But when I see it on like even on my TV and it's like big screen HD, it still feels too dark. So I felt like they just kind of need to tweak that for the next movie because it's the same director. So and this guy's done like horror before. I don't know if you heard of like that Dead Snow movies or something like that. He's the director of
I have
those.
not. I'm not very familiar with his work,
Those were
but
like popular, horror rentals and went back in
I
my
mean, I
day
know that
when I
you're
was
very
working.
much into like the lore and stuff, and that's what you're interested in. I mean, to me, part of the challenge with a sequel like this is how do you recapture the magic with him and another family? Like that's a part of it. Like Die Hard 2 is definitely much more inferior to Die Hard 1. So it'll be interesting to see. I think for me the two biggest nitpicks that I have is I wish it was a little bit more comedy in the movie. I think that it would have behooved the movie, I think, to be a little funnier in places because the idea of a violent Santa is absurd. And I don't know how you generate the comedy, but I definitely would have liked to have seen it. And I also wish that it felt like the father character, that performance was weak. I was not. It's probably my least favorite performance in the movie, quite frankly. I never fully embraced his character, and I think part of it is so the character's name is Jason, the actor is Alex Hassel, and yeah, I didn't buy him as this father figure. I guess that's kind of where I come down on this ultimately, and that's what was so rough to me is that
I had
I really
similar
felt
feelings.
yeah,
Yeah, but my theory is that it was a budgetary issue. It felt like with a
maybe
$20 million budget, by the time you cast this role, you can't
right,
cast someone higher on a level when it's really
right.
like
You're too
a role that doesn't need that anyway. I don't know.
presumably the two highest paid actors are David Harbour, John Leguizamo, like Beverly D'Angelo's probably number three. I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
I would say that in terms of a payday. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because
but like
yeah,
you can't really afford a high priced actor, and that you probably need somebody with more credibility than him. And like he's certainly been in other things. Like it's not that he's a bad actor. I just it was more about the performance and the character. It might be more of the character and the
yeah,
writing.
I would have gone with someone more like a Jon Stewart. I know that sounds kind of out there, but it felt like that was a Jon Stewart type performance. When he rarely acted back in the day, but
And I know I
it
said
felt
that I
like
wanted
that.
more comedy, but I guess I wanted more sincerity out of his character, and I wasn't getting it.
Well, especially from that performance. That was the flattest performance, but obviously it's just to me it was just like budget scale. We can't get the best people in the best positions for the actors. We already got David Harbour. Let's just kind of like go from bottom from there. But at least they got Leguizamo because considering
Like
all
it
things.
seems to me like they were almost going for the Harry Ellis vibe from Die Hard. Like that's what I thought they were going for at first. Like he is let's say he's like a toned down Harry Ellis, and he was the father figure or the father. So I
And I
don't
don't
know.
know, it did feel like he did have a coke problem that day, but he just wasn't doing coke on
Right? It's
screen
just the character felt off.
because he's so like I don't know, he's very jittery. The character, so
He
that
is
adds to that cocaine feeling, right?
right.
But we just don't see it, and I get it. And he's supposed to be the father figure, but I guess it just felt like that performance just kind of didn't match the script. But again, what can you do? So,
And
like
the lack
overall,
of
I
and
think
then
it's
it's
still
also
more positives than
the
negatives.
lack of chemistry with his wife as well. I mean, I didn't really like. I
Oh
thought the
yeah, that
wife.
for sure.
I
Yeah,
thought she was fine. Like the actor who played Linda. Like I thought she was fine.
yeah,
It
she
was
gelled
just
well with more than the family members than she did with her husband.
Alexis
You know what I
Louder
mean?
is her name. I think she did a very good job, and I almost
Yeah,
wish that we had got more out of her character
we'll see.
than
I wonder
the
if the little girl comes back in the sequel, right?
I'll be very curious about that as well. Like I think that
Because
is
then are they going to do the Home Alone 2 in the middle of the movie like they did in the middle of this one? They did Home Alone 1 in the middle, right?
right.
Like that little
Yeah,
homage.
like do they go to New
Are we going
York?
to get a
Like
bird lady? You know what I mean? So I have certain expectations for this movie coming out next year. And not like super high because this is not like a super cloudy movie, but based on
Yeah,
what they teased, I feel like I want more of that lore, like you said. So that's what I'm looking forward to. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. Very
I
solid, but
think
I just want some of those
yes.
technical issues to get fixed. I know the dude likes dark lighting, but man, it's just you can't see anything. And
Again,
I
I
think
think
if
it's
you
a
would have fixed the
general
lighting
movie
in some of those
problem.
scenes, it would have been even more bright, violent.
I don't. I think it's a general movie problem.
We'll see. We'll see because I think some movies do have great lighting, but just it's far in between nowadays. But it is what it is.
All right, so that is it for this week. Next week we are going to be discussing. The theme is school. We're going to be going back to school. We're going to go to school and we talk about the holdovers. Brian, you have not seen the holdovers, have you?
Oh, I did last Christmas, or was it last Christmas or 2 Christmases ago?
So you saw this
Whatever it
in
was.
theaters.
No, I saw it on Peacock because I was shocked that Peacock dropped it after 30 days. I think it was 30 days or
I
something
am
like that.
very, very excited to talk about this because we're going to be
Yeah,
talking about my profession in this movie.
and the weird ways that this is my observation, my little thesis on this movie is that the weird ways that humans come together in family factions and kind of fit those roles naturally and subconsciously. And we'll talk about that during what happens with the three characters because I think
And
it's
we will
exactly
also,
that's exactly what happens.
and also coming off of our conversation about Shaun of the Dead, I think it's only fitting that we talk about Anna and the Apocalypse. That will be our YouTube exclusive, which is not only a Christmas movie, it is a musical and it is about zombies. So that is going to be a
I'm
very
excited because I
interesting
had never heard
conversation.
of it until you mentioned it. So, again, is it a Netflix exclusive? Is it one of those?
It was not. This is the movie I saw in theaters.
Wow. Okay. So there you go. I
I
missed
was
out on that.
probably the only person that saw it in theaters. There's
That's
there's a reason, and we will get into it next week. But definitely check out our YouTube channel. We will be discussing rare exports this coming week. So definitely check that out for Brian. I'm Jerome. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again on YouTube and next week back on the podcast.